Hello, everyone. Welcome to our Friday night show. Tonight, we have two special guests. This year, John and I want to. Am I having an echo? By the way, we just tested audio. Am I okay? Okay. This year at Hidden True Crime, we want to be able to share more stories, to be able to talk about domestic violence, to be able to talk about to survivors, to be able to talk and learn about cold cases, talk about justice, and talk about how we can all help. All of that is in the crime arena. And so I'm very honored to have these two guests with us tonight. Before I go any further, I want to thank a sponsor that we have tonight. Last week, I shared where I received my shirt, and it was incredible, the feedback for this wonderful company, a woman-owned company, Peppered with Leopard. And she sold out of the shirt, and she said that Hidden True Crime community were some of the nicest customers she's ever had. And she sent me clothes to wear for the next few weeks. It was so sweet. So this is from Peppered with Leopard, and she's given our community their own discount code, HTC15. So she wanted to share that well. So thank you, everyone, for inspiring Peppered with Leopard, and we hope to help other businesses too. And we love to be able to help. And so thank you for this beautiful outfit I'm wearing tonight. I don't have my microphone tonight either. It didn't work. Julie and Chelsea, this is who I'm with. I'm with Chelsea Larsen and Julie Flowers, and we tested my microphone forever. I have a new computer. It didn't work, so I'm feeling a little naked without my microphone, but everyone can hear me okay, I assume. Let me share with you, and there is Lisa Stockton. Thank you so much. That is the owner of Peppered with Leopard. She's on chat. I want to introduce our two beautiful guests tonight. So Julie Flowers is the mother of Kym Larsen, a victim of a crime. And Chelsea is her sister, Kym Larsen's sister, Chelsea Larsen. Before we begin tonight's episode, because I know that many people who join us for our Friday Night Lives, we talk wonderful, legalese with Lori Hellis and discuss the Daybell case. We're shifting gears a little bit, and we're going to share a story that could be traumatic for many. You lost Kym to a murder, and we're going to be sharing that story. So I also want to start with a trigger warning for everyone that's here tonight. I have told both Chelsea and Julie to share everything they want to share, that this is a safe space to do so, but I want people and other victims to be aware that that is going to be discussed tonight. So with that being said, the mother and the sister of this victim, and you two, and I want to say this too, are survivors. You'll hear their story. They were part of this crime. You survived. You're victims and survivors of this crime. And unfortunately, Kym did not make it. She lost her life in this crime. I would like to start, I think it's most appropriate, when Julie and I talked, she said, what Kym would want us to do, this podcast. And so with that in mind, I would love to first get to know Kym before we begin. Can you tell us a little bit about your daughter and your sister, Kym?
Yeah, well, thank you first for having us on, Lauren. I really appreciate this. And I hope everybody that's watching, and thank you for everybody for watching tonight too. Kymberlee was my youngest child out of 5, and Chelsea was the next one up, and she was 5. My oldest was 13 when Kym was born, so she was our baby of the family. She was always our baby, and I don't want to just be like the mother that says, oh, she was wonderful, but she really was. And she was just a sweetie. And she grew up very protected by us, maybe overprotected by us. She kind of kept an innocence about her. But people loved her spirit. She was kind. She was just a very soft-spoken and gentle. And people will still go to her Facebook page and make comments about how much they miss her and how kind she was to people. And
Yeah.
She was just a sweet, sweet girl. And she was finding her way after she graduated from high school. She went to live with my oldest daughter, who was 13 when she was born and was like another mother to her almost. So she went to live with her in Florida, and they had so much fun there, and went on all kinds of adventures while they were there. But she's a mommy's girl, and usually she had to come home and be with her mom, be near her mom again.
And in home, you're in Boise, right?
Yeah.
Idaho. I used to live there, as we know it. Idaho.
Right. So, and she was young, and we just kind of wanted her to go from the nest and make her way in life and start out whatever, she was going to do. And she worked some different jobs and, did what young girls do when they're starting out, and lived with my son for a while, lived with my daughter for a while. And then she met Evan. And
how old is he at this point?
I'm sorry?
How old is her when she met Evan? How old is Kym?
Just turned 21.
Just turned 21. Just so young. So young.
Mm-hmm. And so, and right away she got pregnant, and they tried to make a go of it. And she ended up living with his family for a little while, and then they got a little trailer. And what they'd kind of both wanted really to do was to travel and go around and kind of like Gabby Petito live the trailer life for a while, because that's what they bought, was a travel trailer. And but she got pregnant kind of right off the bat. So they couldn't just go off and travel then. But
how old was Evan? Can I ask that?
He was 28 at the time she met him.
So both in their 20s. They're young.
In their 20s, yeah. And do you want to say anything about Kym?
I mean, I'll just kind of piggyback on just her being that light to the room. She walked in a room, and it, from her sense of style to her bubbly attitude to her smile and her laugh, I mean, she definitely drew eyes. She was gorgeous and inside and out. We still have people come up to us, and whether they knew her for a long time or just briefly met her, it's always like, she was kind to me when nobody else was. She was, the one that helped me through this because she, lent me her sweater or whatever. Like, she's just that person that was just, everybody loved. And yeah, kind of had that spirit of like not necessarily wanting to grow up and like step into, like, she had just a very free spirited attitude about things. And that's what a lot of people and we loved about her. It was just so
I started taking her to this festival that they had every year in Eagle, but and she loved it, and she just had this love for festivals.
Just like that sense of community and people, music. She was a huge music person. And so just that live, people gathering, kids running around, activities going, like it was just something that she loved, adored.
That explains her well. Yeah, that explains who she is well. A community, a festival. Yeah.
So they were living in their little trailer, and they had their baby. He was born on New Year's Day of 2018. And her and him, they had problems, here and there, just like anybody does. But he would binge drink and possibly drug, and every so often, and stay out all night or whatever. So they'd have these kind of fights about that. But he was rather gentle himself. Seemingly soft-spoken,
kept himself. He wasn't real, boisterous, or even when he was drinking, or whatever. So
he was quiet.
Yeah. So it was very unexpected.
And I mean, Kym reminds me a lot of Gabby Petito. That story really got to me. And because that could have been how Kym's story went had they gone out like they wanted to and traveled around,
Right.
But that was kind of a point of contention with them. I think that they didn't get to do that. And then once the baby came, I think it
She
just
really
got too much for him. Or
Well, she kicked into motherly, like, I want to build it, like, nest in and build this family, and like really, just thrived in that role. And I think the stress of being provider and like having this family unit, and he was already like, kind of had that addictive personality. So I think having that as his outlet versus seeking help, in other ways or healthy outlets, like, it just was too much. And then when she left, yeah.
thank you, Kay. I see your message.
Yeah. So in other words, this contention, or else they would have gone on the traveling. She was ready to, but the baby getting pregnant unexpectedly, and it seemed like his addictions are sort of these
There
things
were
kept him from
weird,
that.
odd things. Sorry, there were odd things about him too, and I think there was some mental
health stuff that we don't really
that
fully
we don't know for sure what, but I'm pretty sure there was some mental issues with him.
Sure. How you've processed it now. And
Yeah.
did you see that back then at all? Or is this, you did see that then?
I did. It was hard because your adult children want to live their lives, and most of the time everything seemed fine. We don't know that she ever was she hit by him or anything before?
No, we don't. As far as we know, that was the first time that he'd gotten physically violent. There were times, like she's saying, that she would be kind of upset with him staying out or not wanting to tell her where he was. Like, that's kind of what built and kind of kept building the last few weeks or something before. And then I think that was what pushed her questioning him and being upset. And then he got aggressive with her by placing his hands like around her neck and screaming at her on the side with the baby in her arms. So that was enough for her to be like,
and that was it. That was enough.
That was after the baby was born.
We went and got her. We took her out. We packed her things and we left.
You did what you were taught to do. So in other words, things were okay. There was no violence. She had the baby. They had this baby. And then this very violent thing happened where he strangled her, and she reached out to you, Julie, you and Chelsea.
Yeah. Well,
and you got her out.
Yeah.
And
you did what you thought you were supposed to do. You took action.
Our other brother and sister, our other sister and brother went over and took her stuff. They just like took all their belongings and left. And she had sent a message to his mom saying, Donna and I are safe. We just got out. Evan's been increasingly drunk and violent, and I didn't feel safe. So but we're fine. Just letting, and I think she had reached out to Evan and he never replied to her all weekend. And so she was kind of stressed about it. Like, she was a little bit sad that weekend and just kind of like, of course that was she was already beside herself that, things were kind of crumbling with them. So
I lived with Chelsea and her family at the time, and Kym just moved in there with us.
Okay. So it's Chelsea, and are you married, Chelsea? And
yeah, my husband and our kids,
children were in this house.
And
then you were living there too, Julie.
I was living there, and then Kym moved in with the baby just then.
Temporarily.
You welcomed Kym in with open arms and her little baby.
Yep. And then they were actually in the process of, my mom and Kym were going to find a place together, as an alternative for Kym, and then see what happened with Evan. I mean, that was kind of the plan, and just to see how it went, like what,
I mean, one thing we didn't know at the time, which is something that we wish we would have known, is that the first couple weeks after leaving a volatile situation are the most dangerous.
Yes.
And we had no clue about that. And we thought she was safe. We brought her home. We thought she was safe.
I'm glad you point that out, because these are the type of things no family expects that they have to deal with. You don't raise children to find themselves in a domestic abusive relationship. And so we don't understand these things. And so, in other words, and it's true what you just said, the most dangerous time is when women are leaving. Hence,
That's one of the
shelters.
messages we really want to emphasize with people, because it's not enough just to leave the relationship. You have to be careful when you do.
Right. And this helps us understand too, when people say, why don't women leave? Why don't women leave? I think you're also bringing up an important point that it is dangerous to leave. It is
not
very dangerous to leave.
A brother and a sister that can come and take that, help them, and a family, you know,
to go to
welcome.
or,
you know, not some people are removed from their whole
but
community.
we thought she was
their-
absolutely safe home with us.
So,
And, you know, even, you know, looking back, I could see maybe him doing something to her at the trailer, like say he had killed her that day when he did put his hands around her throat. But the way he came to our house, I would never have expected that from him. He wasn't a big, manly, you know, like guy.
aggressive.
He really wasn't. And for him to have done that, we just had that was.
So when you learned about this strangling incident and you knew Evan, was it shock? Was it like, I can't believe he did this? Or was it, oh, this is what we were worried about? Or
We were starting to get a little bit concerned, maybe, because they were fighting
She'd
a
expressed
bit.
some concern about like him staying out. So we knew that he was like maybe
Kind of
doing
fighting,
drugs
maybe,
and, like,
or
so we were, but again, it was like my mom said, you want to let your family live their lives, and when nothing like happens to be like alarming, like you want to just, it's kind of a weird situation to be in, because
you just don't expect it. You don't expect it.
you tend to kind of overlook the red flags a little bit, like especially
Sure.
someone else's relation. So just like and it happened quickly too. It was just like a few times that she'd mentioned she was kind of like having issues with him, or he wasn't listening, or he wasn't, you know, talking to her, whatever, like the concern was. But then, yeah, just like seemed like right after that, it was.
a lot of people saw kindness in, you know, Brian Laundrie, right? The body cam footage that we all saw where the police accused Gabby in the end. So it's not bizarre to not fully grasp the potential of what could be. And he didn't have a previous record. Is that right? There was no previous record. He was young.
Specific, no, like
I don't think so.
I know he had a mugshot. I know that they shared his mugshot, so I know he'd been arrested for something before, but I don't think it was something like in a violent capacity. I have no idea.
Right, something that it wasn't assault or domestic violence related. Okay, so
and we didn't know him that well. You know, their whole relationship was pretty quick, so like we've never really done the full, you know, investigating into who he was really.
And they have a child together at this point. You want it to work. You
Yeah.
know? Yeah. So you did what was the right thing to do. When things got violent, you invited her into your home, Chelsea, and Julie was there. And so you were all there, and she had a new baby. How old was the baby boy at this?
Not even 3 months.
Not quite 3 months, almost 3 months.
Okay. And, you know, take me back. Tell me what happened.
So, yeah, like I said, it was a Friday evening when we took her out of there, and on Tuesday morning, after Hector left for work.
Yeah, he showed up. I had woke up probably about 10 to 8 in the morning, just getting up, opening my computer, doing emails or something, and heard the doorbell. And thought that was kind of weird. It was pretty early, and so I went to the door and didn't see nobody was there. I kind of looked out and saw his vehicle parked at our neighbor's house, kind of down a little bit, and was like already kind of like, what? And then immediately went to the back door,
which was a sliding
glass door. And luckily, I put the bar in like right as he was trying to open it. So that right there, I think saved some time, and like if he would have just came right in. But anyways, he was just kind of like, "Where's Kym? Is she here? I need to talk to her." And I was like, "Yeah, she's here, but you can't come in. You can talk to her through the glass. I'll go get her." I didn't see a weapon, you know.
Yeah.
He wasn't like outraged or anything. It was just kind of like, "Where's Kym? I need to talk to her," which we kind of expected at some point, you know, they're going to talk, whatever.
The
But
breakup, yeah, she left their house,
not
right?
even thinking about it, you know, I just the door was locked. I went back to get her. She's like, yeah, change Donovan. She was just getting out of bed. So I start changing his diaper, and before she could even make it down the hallway, we heard a crash, which was him breaking in through the glass door and her screaming. And basically I kind of put Donovan in the middle of the bed and ran out the room. And before I could get, you know, he was on her with a machete. And as I'm coming
On
out,
Kym or on Julie?
on Kym. Yeah,
Okay.
she was in her room. So
And you were here too, Julie, right? At this,
I was asleep, and
okay.
So at that point, I was like, Kym was screaming, "Stop!" I was asking him to put it down, and
that's what I heard. I heard her say, "Evan, put the knife down," and I woke me up, and I thought, "Oh, I've got to go out and diffuse this situation." And so I got out of bed, went to open my door, and got hit right in the head.
So I had been struck in the head
By the knife.
By the machete. It was a foot-long machete. I don't know if I had said put the knife down or the weapon or the what. So either it was it was so quick. I came out, I saw him, he turned to me and hit me. I don't remember feeling the impact, just hearing a thud and then continuing trying to get him away from Kym because he was kind of slashing at her. That's where I came at him. And then at that point we had made our way in more into the hallway towards her room. And that's when she came out. He hit her. She grabbed his legs. I tried to grab the weapon.
So when you're saying hit, he is hitting you with a 1-foot knife. He's hitting, like, it's not stabbing, but it's not, you know, like with the hand.
It was a hard hit. It knocked me backwards on my bed, and I was like, I've got to go do something now. And what I did was I went and grabbed him around the legs. We were at this point, he was in Chelsea's room.
So upstairs?
Back into the room, and he's kind of coming in through the hallway.
And that's just what I did. And I don't know why. I don't remember thinking. That's just what I did. I went and just grabbed his legs like this around his legs.
Kind of got
and he couldn't move for a minute.
So at that point, I was grabbing the machete with my hands, trying to disarm him. So I sustained a pretty severe hand injury. And the whole while, like, we're not thinking of what we need to do. We're just doing it. It's weird kind of looking back. It's like, why did I choose to grab it? Why did she choose to grab his legs? Why did I choose to, at that point, I ran for help. Like So she took off when I had him around the legs. She took off and Kym took off. And they both took off. Kym ran after me, which I didn't know at the time, but I didn't know she was behind me.
And your children were in the house too.
They were in the bed.
They witnessed.
They were 3 and 1.
They witnessed the whole interaction of me grabbing his legs, and saw me bloody, I think, at that point. I didn't know I was even injured at that point in that way.
I didn't realize what I'd been hit with. I thought I was hit with a metal bar. And that's what I thought for about 3 days until somebody told me it had been a machete. And I was like, oh. But at the point where I had him around the legs is when he then hit my arm and my knee and basically cut in half and injured me fairly severely at that point. And of course I let go.
Yeah.
And then all I heard him say was, "Where's the baby? Where's the baby? Where's Donovan?"
After that. So we ran. So that was after we ran out.
That's after you guys ran out. And and that's what I heard him say. And then he took off after them. So I thought, I know where Donovan is. And I literally had to drag myself on the floor, drag myself into the other room where Donovan was, and I shut the door, and I would not open that door.
Good. And do you think was he looking for Donovan to
kill him?
Kill his little baby.
Yes.
Okay. So this is in some ways like a murder suicide mission, or
suicide mission the way that it was. Then we saw that it was like planned out. He had other weapons in his car.
He
It
had a
was
gun
like,
in his car. He didn't choose. He had a hunting knife and the machete on him, and that's what he used. But yeah, I think he was going to kill the baby. And
So you grabbed the baby, you shut yourself.
well, I didn't. No, the baby was still on the bed, and I could barely
she just
move.
barricaded herself
just
against the door.
barricaded
knowing that
myself up against the door with my
if
good
he's
leg.
looking for the baby, he's gonna come in there. So that
I
was
just
her instinctual.
was keeping that door shut.
It was kind of these like motherly instincts, because as I ran out to go, I went to the one neighbor, nobody answered. I went to the other neighbor, nobody answered. But I was like, well, somebody had to have heard me, and if not, I mean, my kids are there. So I went back. They did and called, but it was such like a traumatic scene, even seeing it, that people froze and didn't even know what to do. Like
neighbors,
you're bleeding. You're bleeding profusely.
I was hysterically like, help, bleeding, so it was.
People said like they drove by and thought we were like filming a movie or something, because they couldn't believe what they were actually seeing.
This is Idaho, Boise, Idaho, in a good neighborhood, right? You don't.
Nampa,
Kim had a night.
The morning time, right? In Nampa, right? A suburb of Boise. So yes.
Yeah. So as I came, getting help, knocking at these doors, I came back to the front, and they were out in the front doorway, Kym and Evan, and that's when he was yelling, "Where's the baby?" And I was like, "Put the knife down. We can do that. Like, you can see him. Just, whatever you do, just put it down. It's okay. Like, why are And that's when he pulled out the other knife, the hunting knife, and was like, "Oh, you want to play too? Okay." And he had already had a hold of Kym at this point, and that's when he stabbed her in the face. He was like kind of right between the eyes, and she was up and standing, and it missed everything in some weird way. Like, she kind of ran in the yard and came back towards the door because it was open. I think we both at that point realized the door was open to go back inside. And she slipped and fell. It was like a linoleum entryway. There was a lot of blood, and I helped her up, and we shut and locked really quick.
She slipped and fell in the pools of blood.
Yeah. And he had kind of like went in the direction outside towards his vehicle. Like I said, it was parked at the neighbor's house. And so I'm assuming now that he was maybe going to go get a gun or get another weapon or something. But at that point, we learned later that a neighbor had come out and yelled at him, and Evan kind of freaked out and went back towards the back of the house to come back inside. And the neighbor, I think, went to get a gun and then lost him because he had come back in. And so at that point, that was when I went in my bedroom. Kym followed me in there, and we noticed my girls are sitting there awake watching the whole thing. And that's when I realized in the mirror that I was in this condition, and but I went to grab my shotgun right away. But before I did that, Kym was like, "My baby," and it was just that motherly, like, we both were just like, "Yeah, your baby." Like, and I remember like embracing her kind of like aside, and she left through the doorway, and I shut and locked the door.
So this is when I was.
So you got really quickly. You got Kym and the baby's Donovan into a separate room, and shut them. Is that what you just explained?
No, so my mom was in that room with Donovan. Had shut herself, knowing that he was in there. I got the shotgun, and she went to find the baby. I didn't know, like, at that point, we didn't know where my mom was. We didn't know if she was in there with him.
Got it.
She went to get him. I had the shotgun, shut the door, and couldn't get the trigger lock because my hand was, so I opened the window.
I read about that in Chelsea in an article, and Colette mentioned it, that they discovered your shotgun. So your hand was almost, it couldn't function, your hand, Chelsea. And they said in the police report that there was a pool of blood around your shotgun because you couldn't pull the trigger or use it.
I probably lost my right thumb, and I have and so it was, it just wasn't functional to, like, the dexterity wasn't there to get the thing. So I abandoned that pretty quickly because I could see that it wasn't going to work, and I just opened the window. And but that's the point where
at that
my
point,
mom was-
Kym had come to look for her baby where I was. And see, this is the part where, and I didn't realize this for quite a while later, probably 2 or 3 months later after that. Kym, I felt somebody trying to open the door, and I thought it was Evan. And there was no way that door was coming open. Like I was holding it shut so tight. And I don't know. I didn't know it was Kym. I thought it was him. In my mind, it was him trying to get in. So I didn't let her in.
And I heard banging on my
And
door
when
as
she
I'm
had
getting
left
out the
Chelsea's
window.
room, Chelsea locked her door.
Okay.
So Kym ended up being trapped out.
So we say that like she is the martyr. Like she took her
Evan's
life and took
attention.
the energy and attention off of
The
rest
baby
of
and the rest of
family,
us.
like. So.
But that was really hard to for a long time I thought I had held Evan out. But it turned out that it was Kym that I held out.
We both kind of realized that, and like, oh yeah, like I remember banging, and in my mind I'm thinking protect my kid, like, and just
you're in survival mode. Yeah.
And we were like, what were we thinking? And we think back and we're like, we weren't thinking. We don't know.
Just that it was him and I was keeping him out is what I thought. And it was hard. That was probably a good year. It took us to try to process that and think like, what would have happened if we'd done it all different? And I don't know what would have happened. Evan probably would have gotten in the room where we were and killed the baby and me and him, all of us. I don't know.
I mean, yeah. Or if I hadn't even put the lock in the door originally, he would have came right in and killed me right away, went back and done her off. It was just,
we don't know. Or maybe we could have saved Kym if we don't know. And that we tortured ourselves with that for at least a year afterwards. And finally I was just like, I can't, this is just a deep dark hole that goes nowhere and I can't keep doing this.
And really any scenario, it almost seemed like
would have been worse,
or that more of us would have died in the scenario.
Yes.
So like,
absolutely.
Yeah.
It just happened the way it happened. And
Lynette is saying you both did what you could to protect the children. And I think that's well said. That's what you were doing and how you were springing into action. Right.
So that's when she go ahead and tell him how you got the babies out.
Okay, yeah. So I
really quickly, had anyone called the police at this point? Were the police?
The neighbors had.
We didn't know. We just trusted that somebody heard me. Like someone had. I don't know. Like I was just like someone had to have heard me and came back. But at that point, yeah, I left the shotgun. And so my girls are sitting there 3 and 1, and I'm like, it's going to be okay. And like trying to, so I got the window open and I think because I had saw myself in the mirror, I realized how injured I was. And I thought that I needed help getting my kids out. So like I jumped out the window and ran around the corner. And I don't even know why I did this. Like, well, I don't know why I thought that somebody would be out there, but there were several neighbors out there standing out there. And I begged somebody for like 20 seconds to come and help me. Like, all I need you to do is help me get my kids out the window. He's not there. It's just the back door. They're right here. So someone followed me. I had to convince my 3-year-old to come to me because I'm, a mess. And she's like, oh. And so I
covered in blood. By a mess, you're covered in blood.
By the time I turn around, my help is gone. So I set her out the window and I grab my other baby and I climb back out and I run to the neighbor's house. And they opened the door right away and grabbed him. And like as soon as like I turned back around, the first responder came, and he like was kind of confused, like because he's seeing me sitting on the other doorstep, and I'm like, he's in there, go, he's killing my sister, just not, you have to break the door in. And within seconds I heard 6 gunshots.
But before that, so I was in the room with the door shut, and at this point he had come back around the back and come back in, and Kym was trapped in, they ended up being in my bedroom, and that's where he kept stabbing her and killing her. And I didn't know what was happening because that door wasn't coming open. But Kym said to me, "Mommy, mommy, mommy, I'm dying, I can't breathe." And I just like, and I wanted to get up and go to her. And I didn't realize that I couldn't. So I stood up and my knee came out of my leg and I fell and I lost a lot of blood at that point. And so I was still trying to stop this from happening. And I said, "Evan, stop. The police are on the way." And I think I heard the sirens coming at that point. So I just said that. And then I wanted to say something to Kym, of course, but I couldn't speak. And I felt like, why can't I speak? But I was bleeding to death. And then just the police came in at that point. We heard the gunshot and I just kind of sat there for a minute. I heard the gun and then I heard the cop say, "He's dead, start CPR on her," which meant Kym. And I thought at that point she was dead then because they were starting CPR on her. So then I just opened the door and he just saw me and he was like, "Oh," and he's like, "Get a tourniquet back here." That's the first thing he said. And then he asked me, "Are you the only one here?" And I said, "Me and the baby." And he says, "The baby?" And then the paramedics were there and they were putting a tourniquet on me.
That's weird
and
that you must have known that I had gotten out. Like,
I don't know,
you know
what
I
I
mean?
knew.
Like,
I don't.
Or maybe
I don't
just
know.
in that room, you were like, just me and the baby.
But when they brought me out on the stretcher, I saw Chelsea and that's
like, "Kym's dead."
I said, "Kym's dead," because I didn't want her to think she was okay, and then find out she wasn't.
You knew she was at that point.
I knew she was, but she wasn't actually, and she actually died 8 minutes after Evan died. She was actually still alive. We didn't know this at the time, but she told me she couldn't breathe, and I assumed at that point she'd been stabbed either in the heart or the lung, and she was bleeding internally because she was filling up with blood, is why she couldn't breathe. But when they said start CPR on her, I thought she was dead at that point, and I saw them picking her up. There was a cop that was picking her up, and that was the last time I saw Kym. And she was just like laying over like she was asleep. I didn't see blood on her, nothing. I don't know why I didn't see anything like that, but I didn't. And they were picking her up, I think, to move her out to where they could get CPR started. But she was actually still alive. We found out later.
She asked about her son and then died right after they told her he was okay.
Tell me about that. I remember you sharing that. So
that's what
I do think of her as dying as a martyr, that she saved her son, and those were her last words, right?
Yeah. She asked, "Is her son okay?" And they told her, yeah. And she died.
So she was able to die with that knowledge.
And knowing that he was dead too, and like, you know.
But she was beyond them being able to take her to the hospital or anything. And she had 10 to 20 stab wounds, I think they said.
Yeah, close to 20.
Close to 20 stab wounds. And how many did you have, Julie?
I just had the slashes, but
head, arm, and leg.
Head, arm, and leg, my knee. But then when I stood up, my knee came. It was just a mess.
She had some excess.
Yeah.
Her eye has had issues since she's.
And then a little bit after that,
retina.
Yeah, my retina was detached. So I had to have eye surgery, and I still have really bad headaches from my eye pressure and stuff like that. I have to use drops every day, and lost a lot of my sight in that eye and stuff. But the knee surgery was what happened first. Like, I couldn't even bend my knee for months. I had to. It was just,
yeah. And so you told Chelsea, when your mother told you that, were you thinking at this point maybe she was still alive? Was that a shock, or what was going through your mind when your mother said Kym is?
I don't know. I think when she told me that, I was just like, no, like,
yeah.
And then I think after that at the hospital, I remember like asking is she for sure? Like, and then telling me, yeah. So I, 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 I pretty much knew. I mean, knowing, and I knew that even if she had survived with what I witnessed and what I knew her injuries were, even from what I saw her before he got to her at the end, like, was like, even if she lived, there would be so much damage. Like, I don't know that she'd ever be the same, you know?
Right. Right.
So yeah, I think I knew, and yeah, it was just.
And a few people are asking a question. Well, first of all, I want to say that people are saying you're both heroes, and I
Reading them.
agree with that. I'm so sorry. You know what? Actually, I'm gonna save these questions for later. I want to finish this story. So, how long does it take you to process something like that? I mean, that is an absolute trauma. Most people never experience.
We can function for probably a couple good months. Like seriously, couldn't even function. People brought us dinners and stuff. We were.
Because it wasn't just the loss of a loved one, but it was like the tragic and the witnessing and then the physical injuries we sustained. And then we were displaced from our home because it was a major crime scene. It happened like in the whole house almost. And it had to be renovated.
We had nothing. Like, we had to have clothes donated to us. And,
yeah, we were
had
completely
nothing,
displaced. And then Donovan was orphaned because his parents, so he had to go completely in the system.
And then that was a whole.
We were completely in.
So what happened with Donovan was, he became a ward of the state at the time of his parents' death.
Okay.
Automatic.
People are asking about Donovan. Everyone wants to know about the baby and Donovan right now, which is part of this story. I mean,
very big part. Yes.
You know, he lived, and he's so.
So this is what happened with him. So he became a ward of the state. Chelsea and I were in surgery. And my other two daughters had been on business trips and were flying home when they found out they were, on their business trips and found out, and were flying home on airplanes that day. And the health and welfare got kind of in a hurry about placing him. And there was a cousin of the girls that stepped forward to take him. And we thought at the time that it was just going to be for like a week, maybe, or something, just till we got all home and whatever.
Our oldest sister, who we knew that we all agreed on.
Yeah, because Jade was going to take him.
Jade, she's his mom now.
Was going to adopt him.
That was just unanimous through our family.
Right, that was just
not even a question. We knew.
Because she never had kids of her own, and
she was like the mom figure to Kym, and they had the connection. It was just it was just no brainer. Yeah. Anyways,
but
so
the cousin stepped in, and then we found out after that the health and welfare wasn't going to relinquish custody back to us just automatically. It doesn't work that way. And then she decided she wanted to keep him.
She grew attached, and so they contested adoption, and we had to all kind of come together as a family and say, no, that's not what we want, and that's not what's going to happen. And
so luckily she conceded, but she didn't just relinquish him to us at that point. She held on, and she,
so that was just another element of the trauma, and it really
Donna and Jade had to go through all this whole adoption process, classes, and
anyway,
all this kind of stuff.
And Donovan doesn't have his parents at this moment, and he's
going to doesn't have us at that moment because
he's confused.
He didn't have you, right?
And so anyways, so we had partial custody of him until like August. This happened March 27th of 2018. So until August, that's when we finally got full-time custody back of him. So it was quite a little while.
Okay.
So we were dealing with a lot. We were dealing with losing Kym and then possibly losing her baby too.
Yeah. And then for me, it was like being displaced and then having these children that witnessed that. So trying to get them the help they needed at the level. One was 3 and one was 1. So
your children are victims. They just witnessed.
The 3-year-old was really bright, has a really sharp memory. So she still remembers, and it's like one of those things that people say, well, at least they're young and they'll forget. But when something that traumatic and that emotional,
and there's a body memory to trauma. that we've
it
come
gets
to
stored
learn.
in your muscle memory.
It's a muscle
and
memory.
becomes kind of an emotional, something that maybe not is like a tangible memory necessarily, but it's there. And so we've done multiple things throughout the years, modes of counseling and therapies and healing modalities, like in all the different ways, and still
Group
continue to seek that
therapies,
out as needed, and just
individual therapy.
But the biggest thing, like, I think, is just kind of that being mindful and like adopting that compassion, because we could really get hung up on what happened and how it happened and really be bitter and be angry and be,
To say the least. I think a lot of people would be.
want to know why and why this would happen and stuff. But like, we kind of got over that quick. I think my mom and I both realized that like surviving something like that really gives us the perspective and the platform to help other people, and like and just like utilize, that story as like
something to come. But
create good from that.
how it kind of started or happened was we had a funeral for Kym, but it was kind of limited seating and stuff. But we wanted to have a celebration of life for her. So Chelsea, after being in the hospital, having surgery, going through all this,
my brother and sister came to me and was like, do you know what we should do for her celebration of life? We got the funeral, but like, what should we do for like to celebrate her? And I'm like, we're doing a festival. We're going to call it Kym Fest. It's going to be in her name. I got this. Like, and I just like put
this together.
I like
10
had
days
my
after.
phone and basically Facebook posted everything that I could envision about what I wanted it to be. And people were,
and none of us remember hardly a thing about it because we were so out of it still.
Like
it was only 10 days after.
Constant, like, and miraculous like openings, like the event center that we really wanted had an opening that just happened to cancel, and just like they saw our story.
Yeah,
and, like,
she put together this entire festival.
People that like,
and so many people came out because so many people loved Kym. She was like the little sister to all my kids' friends, and just the whole community. We've been in this community for years, so there was quite a few people that came out that day.
300 people
to celebrate Kym's life.
I think so.
Yeah,
Kym loves festivals, and Kym loves festivals, and
that's where the festival part comes in.
The best part was like that we had people from the community reaching out and helping and supporting through this whole process, because it was like so publicized. It was very impactful for the whole community. It was like a jarring, like we said, it made headlines, and like
everything we had was donations were just flooded. They had people donated to the police station for Donovan. Yeah. My son had to come with a pickup truck to get all the donations that we got for Donovan. We didn't buy diapers for like a year. We had people just were like so giving and so caring.
I mean, through our house remodel, through everything, we had just like everybody just reached out. And so through the festival planning, we had volunteers from like the mental health awareness organizations, and
those dogs,
suicide prevention and therapy dogs, music therapy that did like a drum circle, and some volunteer artists, DJs and stuff. And
somebody made these little pillows, so nice. And they all said Kym on them, and Kym Fest. I'm wearing my Kym Fest t-shirt.
So the feedback that we received after that, and like just the overall spirit that came about from that, was like, we have to do this every year. Like, we can't just do this once. And we kind of knew that we wanted to. We were just kind of wanted to see how it went, because we labeled it Kym Fest 2018. So people were even like, so is there going to be another one? Or so then after the fact, we were like, yeah, let's do it. And we really went all out. We had a local event producer come on board, and just like, she volunteered her time to just make it what it was for us. Marlene
we rented out the whole park, and so we've been doing this. Of course, 2020 we had to have it virtual, but we've done, so there's 2018, the first one, and then 2019, 2020 was virtual, and this last year we've had a nice. We're improving every year. We're getting a little bit better every year in how we do it. So because we learn as we go, but
the biggest,
and it's for people to come together and get some some resources for healing, for trauma, for mental illness. We have like booths set up for all that kind. There's fun things for people to buy, fun thing, you know, there's music, there's fire dancers, there's a camel, there's my son brought his reptiles and spread that. It's just a fun bounce houses, all kinds of stuff for the kids. I think we're friends. Okay.
Oh, there we go. Yeah.
Stuff for the kids to do. Yeah. Disney princesses that come for the kids. It's just really cool. It's really neat. And it makes us feel good because we know that Kym would just love this so much, but she would be like humbled by it too.
Yeah. So the biggest thing with the festival is bringing the access and awareness to the resources that are out there. So like from the speakers that are on our stage to the types of vendors that we have, they're all kind of revolved around this idea of healing and, you know, becoming whole after tragedy and like, you know, trauma awareness and violence prevention and that sort of thing. So we try to like bring this fun family filled, you know, festival, but like also bring some awareness to these hard topics.
And it's
like
free for the community. It's free. People come and they're like, how much is this? And we're like, it's free.
Right. So we get vendors, we get food vendors and local businesses and stuff to, you know, share their goods.
Like
and
carnival.
It's kind of become an annual like family reunion in a sense of like come together and celebrate life, but learn, you know,
and it's all done by volunteers and Chelsea does all the legwork in it and it just seems to come together.
So in the process of like planning the second festival, you know, after her celebration of life, we kind of coined a motto based on her name. So Kym spelled her name KYM, and we adapted that to mean kind your mind. And so then we later called the festival, it's Kym Fest for short, but it's also the Kind Your Mind Festival. So everything revolves around that idea again of like compassion, kindness, healing, you know, nonviolence, like stepping away from judgment and blame and shame, seeking help when you need it, you know. That
kind your mind.
How do you kind your mind? Yeah, what do you do to bring that peace and to like adopt
to yourself, kind your mind for your own self too.
Mindfulness, you know, all of the and that we need each other, that we're all community, we're all in this together, that we as humans, you know, have these needs for belonging and acceptance and love and nurturing, and that we can provide that for each other. We just have to be vulnerable and we have to be, you know, step outside of that. So Kym Fest and Kind Your Mind became this like motto and this movement. And so we really wanted to like create an organization, like a foundational kind of umbrella organization that we could do this all year long and provide support groups and information and connections to resources and stuff. So I had kind of had this idea of like a resource center beforehand, but I didn't know what the niche or my passion was in it until this happened. And I was like, oh my gosh, it's violence, it's trauma, it's like these hardships that people go through, and then how do they pick themselves up and get support and deal with grief and all of the things. So it became this, and so it was born shortly after that, and it's called For You Network. So family oriented resources for the young, old, and underserved. It's a network of resources that revolve around this whole idea of how do you kind your mind. So what we hope to do is have an actual physical location at like a community center where we offer these ongoing support groups and classes and groups hosted by these other resources and
but it takes time to get you. We got our nonprofit status. We got we're trying to get Kind Your Mind trademark. So it's steps at a time.
Yeah.
But you're doing it. You're doing it.
Yeah. So that's the goal with everything, with Kind Your Mind as like the basis of it, and Kym's name kind of, you know, right there. Surviving.
And our moderators are putting up links right and left in the chat. So everyone check those.
They got it back.
And then we also have some links in the body of the description of this YouTube video.
Everything goes straight to Kym Fest. It's for the community and for the awareness.
Thank you.
Wow. I mean, this is a tragedy, and you lost something remarkably precious. I think that many mothers' biggest fear is losing a child, and you lost your sister, and how are you? And I want to get back to the festival and what you're doing today, and that's here. But how are you doing today? Like, where are you?
I mean, as far as the grief goes, like the first year was horrible. I wouldn't wish anybody to ever have to go through it. Like I said, the first few months we couldn't even function, and the first year was pretty hard.
Second year was still a little foggy.
Yeah, but you do. Time passes, and you get, so now it's more like I have waves of what I call going to the dark place, or because in there where you just kind of you can't get it out of your head. But most of the time when we function and we do it for these babies, we've got these little ones.
Yeah,
these are our little ones.
Yeah.
All of these were here except this youngest one. She wasn't born yet. Let me see. But these are our little ones.
And they were all,
yeah.
And Donovan in that picture, people are wanting an update on Donovan too.
So he just turned 4. His birthday's the first of the year. And he looks more and more like Kym every day. He's super spirited and active and loving. He's got a lot of personality. He's got style like she does. Like, he's super,
he knows Kym is his angel mom.
He talks about her. Yeah, we talk about her, and explain the best we can to a 4-year-old,
And that's another thing that we have to still process through, and we don't really even know what we're going to do, is because he's going to start asking questions sooner or later. He's 4 years old. Like, who's my dad? Where's my dad? That kind of thing.
And that's not easy, because it's not just, I know what you're saying. It's not just that his mother was murdered. It's that his father.
Right.
Did it. It's very, very complicated. Right.
And it's not something you can keep a secret from a kid, because there's the internet. They're blabbed it all over the place. So, like, he's
hiding something. Right.
But he's going to have to find out. Like, we wouldn't want to keep it from him really anyway. But how do you tell a kid that is what we have to start dealing with, probably sooner than later.
Right.
And we don't know. They will say age appropriate things, but and then I think, well, maybe we should just flat out tell him while he's still too young to really understand it, so that it's not a shock to him later on when he does find it. I don't know. We don't know what's the best way.
People are asking real quick so Jade is Donovan's adopted mother.
Yeah, people are asking who has Donovan now, so it wasn't completely clear.
He was 4 months when it was official, something like that. So
no, he was
6 months.
No, he was
8 months. I don't remember.
He was
Jade would know. She's like sitting there.
13 months. Because it was February 6th of the next year, before the whole process we got him in August, so he's 4 months, 5, 6.
It took all over a year, or almost a year.
It was just a long.
And that is a special thing. Jade cannot have children, right?
Right.
I had read in an article that at one point, at Jade's sisters, I don't know if you were involved in this, Chelsea, were offering to be a surrogate for her to try to be able.
If she ever did that.
Yeah, that was.
It was the thought.
The thought, but and so she now has Donovan, and she's a mother now herself.
She's his mom. They're very close. She doesn't know what life would be like without him now.
Many are asking about. And I don't know if you can talk about it or not. We know that Donovan is a child, so if you can't talk about it, but people are asking that.
What are they asking? Sorry.
They're asking, does Donovan's dad's family visit?
Oh, see, and that's another thing.
So they didn't want anything really to do with anything. They had said that before this happened, they had already disowned Evan, and so they were kind of like whatever. And they did made sure to get Kym's stuff back, because like we said, they had lived with his parents for a period. She had some stuff there.
Donovan actually got an estate.
It was Donovan's trailer now, because it was Evan's, and so like that had to be taken care of. And they did what they needed to do, but never have heard from
They
them.
they said that they would bow out basically and not be in Donovan's life unless he wanted them to at some later point.
Okay.
But they do live in this area, and I don't know. I think about them often. I don't know how they would be dealing with it. I feel bad for them. That was their son that did this deed, so that would be a whole different set of trauma and grief for them. I'm sure it's horrible for them. I don't know what to do. There's not, they kind of opted out of the whole situation. They contacted us through a lawyer after
Which
this
could be
happened.
for the better. I mean,
Yeah, we don't know.
in some ways.
We don't know.
But that's
Yeah.
what it
So
is.
many people are affected. The compassion you both show throughout everything you talk about, there's compassion. You can't imagine what his family's going through. You talk about mental health. Is that something you've always had, Julie and Chelsea? Is this just part of who you are? Is it been something you've worked on in this?
We've always been a pretty close family, but this brought out a whole element of things that nobody ever would think you'd be dealing with. But we don't want to have anger and hatred.
We're not like grudge keepers.
Yeah.
We're not a drama type of family naturally. So I think when this it was for me, and I remember soon after, I think it was the same for my mom, because we both kind of felt this, and we remember even people kind of experience us and being like, shouldn't you be mad right now? Kind of like feeling, and it was, I don't know, it's just like, we feel bad that he got to that point of having to do that. And for us, for it to get so bad. And that's where it's like, how can we prevent that from people feeling that despair and sense of if I can't live, you can't live. And
I don't know what makes somebody do what they do, like that kind of thing. I don't know. But and on the one hand, we were glad that he was killed because, first of all, we don't have to go through a trial and all that kind of thing. But also because, for a while afterwards, I would be like, he's going to come around the corner and kill me. And then I'd go, no, he's gone. I had these trigger things. I don't know.
PTSD, right.
So I was like, oh, my goodness, he's not. But, on the other hand, I feel bad for his parents and his family.
Kay Woodcock says, you all are heroes, and I agree. Interesting question from Lynette. What was Evan's toxicology after the event? Was there anything found in his system?
Alcohol and some other drugs. I think there was methamphetamines and possibly some other kinds of opioids or something. I don't know the extent. I definitely know there was alcohol and meth and maybe some other stuff. He was definitely very much intoxicated. I could see that. But it was.
Tell him about kind of Abby's mom's friend that saw him.
Oh yeah, we heard later that a friend of ours' mom worked with someone who had seen him driving down the road
to our house
and was hysterically kind of
he was screaming in the car and wild, kind of waving his arms around,
and had called and reported
they called
him.
The police. Yeah.
And so we think that's why that they were so close in our area already, kind of looking for this vehicle.
Okay.
We don't know for sure, but we heard that later and we were like, oh, that's weird, and so, and it was in the same time frame and stuff. So we think that they saw him.
But I also know that he gathered the weapons that he had in his car and on him, because when Jade and my son Ben went to get Kym's stuff, they went through everything in that little trailer, and she said the only weapon that was there was an axe, which she took with her. And so he planned this. He gathered weapons to bring from somewhere.
Wow. So I mean, so he was in an altered state, but he was thinking and
Yeah.
plotting and
Well, and like
Right.
someone
I think so.
commented,
I think so.
so do you think this was, going back, it was police that killed him. He was looking for his baby. Do we feel, I asked this question earlier, but there's some hesitation. Do we feel like this was a murder suicide mission, or what are your?
I think so.
Suicide by cop type thing, because he
No,
knew
no,
they were
I think-
coming.
Yeah, no, yeah, I think it was a suicide mission.
Okay.
He knew that he would ultimately probably die in this scenario, whether
Yeah.
he took the baby, whether he killed the baby on site, whether someone came and, I think he knew that it was like the end, and he was like out to maybe like punish her for leaving, and
Right.
he was going to do something, like more tragic.
Because he
or
could have
torturous
ran.
or
I mean,
whatever,
he could have ran at some point before the police got there, but he didn't.
because he knew. I mean,
And
I
he was
remember
still actively
you called out the
killing
police are
her.
coming.
Yeah, I
And-
told him the police to come and stop.
Right.
He didn't.
Wow. And looking back and understanding Evan, or not understanding him, you can't understand someone that does something like this, but in trying to process what are your thoughts on Evan? I know you still have questions, Julie. We've talked.
Well, like I know one comment was like a mix of alcohol and meth. That's a bad combination. Plus, it was so early in the morning. He must have been on an all-night bender or something. I think
Yes.
and we do think that he was, maybe days into hysterical rage of being left.
I think
and all
maybe
this
he
stuff.
was bipolar or something.
We
I don't
know that he
I don't
has
know what.
mental health background. We just
Maybe
don't know
he was on
exactly
a
what.
manic type thing. I don't
But
know.
regardless, the thing is like he's intoxicated, right? He's under substances he's using to cope with this major stress, and he's hurting because his whole life's falling apart, right? So hurt people, right? So like
Hurt people.
whether he's evil or he's not, or it was a psychotic break or whatever. Like the point is like that need that was unmet in him went to this tragic expression of rage, and unfortunately she was the brunt of that because they're because of that was his closest thing to him. And so it's just really unfortunate. Like it's just a really unfortunate. And so we hope like through our messaging that Kind Your Mind doesn't also only pertain to people that are experiencing domestic violence or being abused or whatever. It's also the people that are in that mindset of needing
The abuser.
to inflict the pain.
Like
and
maybe
to
we can help somebody that is going to be the one that does something horrible, because maybe they can reach out and get some help.
Motto, really. It's like we're all human, we're all suffering, and we're all going through these.
And you never know who's going to do something. You just don't predict that.
You don't. There's not always a record. People want to think that there's something we can do to predict what the behavior will be, and so many times you just
there was a lot of shame in where his situation was, and this just this violent we're so conditioned to jump to violence, whether it's on ourselves, whether it's like self-inflicted or on other people, but like that's where we go. Is like when our world's falling apart, it's self-destruct. And I think it was a suicide mission of like, I'm self-destructing, I'm taking you with me.
Any idea why his family disowned him before it all happened? Was it drug use?
After that I did, and so that's kind of another piece to the puzzle of like
why
why they disowned him. No, I don't know.
But I mean, they had lived with his parents, so it was this would have been new. And I mean, I'd heard Evan talking to his dad on the phone before, and I heard Evan say, "I love you too." So I know his dad must have said, "I love you" to him. And this was only probably a couple months beforehand. So I don't know if it was just the events that Kym had texted to the mom about. He got violent with her. Maybe that was when they just then. I don't know.
It's kind of one of those like we heard through it's a weird situation because we didn't know him that well, and like we don't know the background, and his family doesn't want to be involved. So we really have no information on who he
Huh.
was as a person. We just kind of have to take it as what at face value, what we observed and what we saw, and yeah.
A lot of understanding. I remember the first time Julie and I communicated was my husband and I were doing our first podcast, and he was sort of explaining the mind of someone that perhaps could commit a crime later. And I remember it was you trying to make sense of Evan and what happened. And I thought it was very compassionate. You were trying to understand Evan. And what you just said, I want to say, Julie said in such an eloquent way that he had a need that was unmet in him. And what a gracious, wise woman, you both are, to understand that a lot of these crimes could perhaps be prevented if we also help those who have these unmet needs. I mean, the compassion and
That's
wisdom.
yeah. Thank you. I mean, yeah, that's helped us overcome just having that mindset versus the hatred and the victim mentality. We knew early on. I remember at Kym's festival or celebration of life, my mom looking at me and being like, "We're not victims, we're survivors. Like, we just remember that. Like, we are survivors. This isn't define us or whatever." So
Does it help? Does that term help you, survivors?
Well, yeah, I mean, we don't want to be a victim or in that victim frame of mind, like poor
Like
us. And,
right.
I mean, she wouldn't want that for us. And I don't even look at her as a victim, even though she was definitely a victim, but more as a martyr, like Chelsea said, because she just stood her ground and she kept his attention away from that baby and away from the rest of us, where who knows what would have happened, if she'd fallen right away. But she stood up. She had a knife coming out of her head and she still stood up to him and
the whole way through
kept his attention on her,
even
and away from us.
Even later, he must have taken the knife from her head because it wasn't there at the end. And so she lived through all of that. Like, how?
Wow.
It's just, and even like the way that we moved through the whole scenario, it's like, I don't know. It makes you wonder, like, what kind of divine presence there, guiding, or at least.
I don't know how he didn't find us in that room, really. There must have been an angel guarding that door, because he never came. He was looking for that baby. He was
looking, right.
That baby.
He said to you, "Where is the baby? Where is the baby?"
There wasn't that many rooms in the house. He just never came there. But Kym kept his attention from that too. She kept him away.
She saved her baby. And someone pointed out earlier, if you hadn't have moved her out, she could have been killed, and Donovan.
Oh yeah.
That's where every other scenario is like, he probably wouldn't be here. So
actually, that was one thing I was actually grateful for, as far as having gone through that with her, because I don't know what it would be like for me to not know what happened to her, since I was there. I mean, it happened quickly. This all happened within like 15 minutes from start to finish. And
I bet those 15 minutes felt like hours.
It seems like longer, yeah, but it happened quick. And I forgot what I was saying.
I was reading the comments there.
But I don't know what I was saying.
Sorry. I was reading these comments and
I got a question on my phone, so I'm reading it too. Let's see. So someone wants to know, how do you get away from that victim mentality, as in the survivor? And I'll say this, on our Patreon account, John recently discussed this, because we were discussing a recent victim of a crime, and I was trying to call her a survivor. And so, and John was calling her a victim. And so we had this discussion on what it means, and on our Patreon account. And one thing he said is, well, she is a victim right now. She just went through this, and he kind of explained it as there's a process. You can start, when you're a victim, you're powerless. There's nothing you can do. You are a victim, and then you can become a survivor and a thriver. Those are 3 steps. And so, how is it that you, the question I just received from a listener on my phone was, how do you move from that victim mentality?
I think for us, I mean, like, we were definitely victims in the moment, and there was nothing we could do, and we were powerless, and that was our victim. And then pretty soon after that, it was like within that next day, I feel like in the hospital, or, days after, through the funeral and stuff, it was like, no, like, we're not just victims here. Like, we can survive through this, but more than that, like, we can keep her name alive.
I
Like,
think
it was
too,
just,
because
I
it was
don't
so
know.
many people like reached out to us. So many people were good to us.
We were
and
inspired by our community.
that we were inspired to give that back and to help anybody that we could to not be in the situation that we were in. And even if it's just one little way, or one person somewhere, maybe something.
Well, yeah, and just right off the bat, like my mom said,
would help them.
We were so thankful to the community. It was like a way for us to give back and to show that, and to recognize and honor their trauma through this too, because it was so traumatic for the whole community. It was like, all I could think about was how sorry I was for the people that experienced it, that had
Your
the
neighbors.
wall. Yeah,
Have you been able to talk with your neighbors who called the police and share that, or is it more of, has that ever been discussed?
Yeah, the one neighbors that like took my kids in and stuff, we're still pretty close with them. It was very traumatic for them. Like, it was like, that's where I'm like, I can't imagine being in their shoes, and they're like, wait, you just went through it. Like, how can you not imagine our,
I know, I would always feel sorry for people. We
just felt so bad for like the people that saw it, that like were shocked by it and affected, and like, I don't know, it was just a weird
her
healing.
babysitter was supposed to come over that day, and
Never
so
heard from
she
us.
she didn't know anything. She came over, and there's the coroner, the place is taped off, and she was just like, oh, and I felt so bad for her, like, I always wanted to know, how did you find out about Kym? And when they would tell me, I would just be like, oh, I'm so sorry, like, because they would be so
sorry. And so I don't know.
Where are your children now? The trauma that, Chelsea, your children suffered through witnessing you in this crime. How are they doing today, if I can ask?
Good. I mean, I have 3 now. So I ended up getting pregnant like 6 months after this happened, and had another baby in the middle of all of it. So she's our little angel baby.
I adore them.
Yeah, they're good. 6, 4, and 2. Donovan just turned 4. We're kind of raising them as siblings almost. Like, we see each other a lot. We're interactive in each other's lives, and like, my kids' dad's very active in all their lives, and like, my brother, steps in, and our other sister watches Donovan during the day while Jade works, and it's all just like this collaborative, like, cohesive kind of co-parenting. So they're, we're all aiming and every day working towards that thriving mode. Like, I feel like we phase in and out of feeling like, oh, we're thriving, we got this, and then we'll go through a wave of like heavy, an anniversary will come up, or a holiday or something.
Like, a lot of times we go and maybe spend a weekend at a cabin or something on the weekend of that date, because it hits us heavy. It does. Every year.
Yeah. And it's not, you guys are in a really, I mean, what I see, I don't know how you're doing. So what I see is, it feels like you're in a good place tonight. I can't believe the way you're able to talk about this tragedy, but you're not always this strong, right? You're not.
It's sad. I cry every day, just a little bit, I mean, I tear up easily, is what I should say. I don't sob and cry, but I tear up very easily if there's any little thing. I
sob
can't
and
watch
cry.
certain movies now. I can't ever watch Selena again. You know,
when it comes, it's like for me, it's best to just like purge and like move through the memory or whatever that's coming through and like just feel it and like grieve and allow those tears. And like there are times where it's just like you can't function sometimes. Like it's just so heavy and like you don't always know when that's going to hit. So it's a hard thing because you're still trying to move through life. You're still trying to work and have responsibilities.
And you
like,
got these kids.
Yeah. And so it's like,
just be,
it's a really fine balance between like being able to just process it and express it. And then having to also be strong and be like, fulfill your obligations and, report to a job and stuff. Like it's just, and not
go on with life. You're expected to just live life and go on, and you have this
grief is a process, and you have to work through that process.
And traumatic grief in that way, and with all the complexities of it, I mean, it just takes a lot of time and grace. We've had to learn a lot of grace for ourselves, and like there's so much that we're like, we should be able to do this, or why are we so like upset about, or like I don't know, just things will trigger easily, and it's like hard. It's easy to like get hard on yourself, and so having that grace and compassion for ourselves too has been big, and just being like, well, this is where we're at, like we have to just
yeah. And as my husband John says, grief never goes away.
No.
It's just a part of who you are now, and right, processing that.
So our new reality, we call it our new
reality, right?
Part of the reason I got into the Daybell case was I saw the way Lori was acting, and I couldn't fathom her being, if her children had died, I couldn't, it just gripped me that how is she acting that way? We couldn't function. I didn't understand it.
Right. The lens that you saw the Daybell case after losing
a
child to murder, and then she had a child that was murdered, and the way she was acting.
Yeah, I couldn't know. Even if she thought they were zombies, you would still be like, oh my God. It just didn't make sense to me that she wasn't acting right.
Do you feel, this is a question, this is a personal question, a question from Lauren. Do you feel after being victims and survivors of crime and going through this trauma that it's made you look at the true crime community, or when you learn about true crime, is it different now? Is there a reason?
Yeah. I mean, certain, like the Gabby Petito case really bothered me. I couldn't listen to a lot of the details on it because it was just she was 22. She reminds me a lot of Kym. Kym and Evan had wanted to go travel. It was just like, her parent, I couldn't listen to a lot of the details about that case. Yeah. It was heart-wrenching. Other cases don't bother me as much because I watch court TV and this kind of stuff. I kind of have been into true crime for a long time, but some things I can't, some things I can't watch, or I just too hard.
Changes.
Yeah.
Do you listen? What about you, Chelsea? How do you?
I mean, I was never really into true crime very much. Like I have always had kind of a weak stomach for violence in general. Like even violent parts of movies, I tend to like shy away from. So like, but I do usually get intrigued by the story of it and the impact of the people. Like I'm a very like much of a social person, so that kind of so like if my mom was ever watching stuff like that, I could get into it. But now, yeah, it's very like it just hits a different chord because you've lived it. So then it's like you can almost feel what they're going through in that, so it makes it more real. So you have to be in that state of knowing that you might be triggered, or that it might bring up these, and deciding if you're in the space for that or whatever. But yeah, it definitely puts more perspective on people who've experienced stuff like this.
Yeah. Colette Cox, Chelsea has social worker energy.
Hopefully, because
That's what I
I'm
majored
running
in.
a social change organization and community-based programs. So.
Yeah, and I want to get back to what you're doing with all of these organizations you're running and the hope. But what would you like people? I think it's so important to bring awareness to domestic violence. It affects so many people. And as I've said before, I want, a lot of people think that it only happens to certain people, that it's not going to affect their family or their loved ones. But what do you want people to know and understand about domestic violence after going through what you've been through?
Yeah, you just never know.
Well, and that domestic violence isn't just between two partners. Like, it affects the kids and the family, and I mean, it's not always a domestic, like a dispute that's happening. There's all these different elements, and it can be unexpected, and I don't know, just that there's so many different forms it takes. So not to ever take it lightly, I guess. And knowing that leaving a relationship, or shifting out of a violent situation or something, is always going to be a dangerous time, and a time that there should be some strategy behind it and some support around you. And if you're not in a area where you have family and friends around, or people that are on your side or whatever, like seeking out that support, because there's always organizations and resources,
and really
and
to
local people
know
that
that people have a resource in their town.
it's vital. Like, having a support network, like, we wouldn't be thriving without a support network. Kym wouldn't have felt like she could get out, and save her son and all of that, if she didn't have her support network. Like, and if she had been in another, it would have been on her to seek that out. But I'm just saying that there are organizations, so if you seek them out, they will. You have to put that out
we
there.
do want to bring that kind of awareness to people, that there are resources for them. There is always somewhere that they can go, or somebody they can talk to, or something they can do.
There's suicide prevention hotlines. There's local organizations that you can just walk in their door. They aren't necessarily affiliated with police departments. I know that can be scary for people to make reports and stuff like that.
Right.
So always find grassroots organizations that are family based, or that are involved in advocacy in some way, and just reach out, because then that at least opens the door for you to get out. But having some strategy behind, like, whether it's you are saving up money till you can get out, and you're making a plan on what your escape will be, or whatever, like, I don't know, had we known even just the very minimum of that's a dangerous time, we would have been more on guard. When I heard that doorbell, I might have called right
911
away,
then, or
like those sort of things,
the littlest thing. But
those little things, the knowledge, the small bits of knowledge.
We were just oblivious to that. So.
A lot of people, how can we help your organization? Someone was asking if they could buy a KymFest t-shirt. How can we donate to help the cause? And then I also want to say, Julie Holden posted earlier the domestic violence hotline website and phone number, because she pointed out that sometimes when you are online, your abuser can see what you're looking up. So don't be afraid to call either. And if someone has that.
Knows this symbol now? Wait, where is it? If you're in a car, if you're somewhere that you need help, you can do this symbol. It means you're being held captive. And people are starting to understand this now. Some girl got out of a car with some guy just a couple months ago because she did this, and a stranger saw her and called it in.
Thank you. So this is it. And so we all need to learn this and be aware of it when we see it.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing it. And here's the domestic violence hotline number for anyone listening. You can see this on the screen. So yeah, tell us, where can we help your causes for KymFest? And
so we on kymfest.com, we have like donation link for our PayPal and stuff like that. If that's where your heart is for supporting.
And
We also
goes to KymFest, but
we call for volunteer. Yeah, everything that we bring in goes back to the production of the event and the development of the organization, 100%. Yeah. But as we gear up for KymFest, usually in the spring, March, April is when we really start putting a call out for volunteers. So joining our Facebook or following us on Facebook, it's all at Kind Your Mind, both Facebook and Instagram. You can follow us at Kind Your Mind. For You Network is the Facebook, and then Kind Your Mind is Instagram. But so just to be following us what we're doing and liking and sharing, and
we're trying to get a merchandise store up and
ongoing.
running. So we are working on that. We have cups that say KymFest. We
always sell merchandise.
Masks.
We usually do it in waves leading up to, or we've tried that in the past. This year we want to have just an ongoing store online for people to purchase. So we'll get that up soon.
We're working on it.
When you have that up, let our community know, because we love to be a part of that and to support you. And so, and I did share some links in the description of this YouTube as well. Is there anything else that you both want to talk about tonight? Do you feel is important?
I think we pretty much covered it. I don't know.
I mean, yeah, just looking out for each other. Like I just read a comment that we need to just have each other's backs. If we notice something suspicious, like don't be afraid to say something. We can be on guard and have boundaries and still be kind and compassionate about it, like but being mindful of what's happening around you. I don't know, and sticking together and seeking the support when you need it, because we're all human beings that are moving through this.
And Kind Your Mind doesn't just mean kindness towards everybody else, but towards yourself too.
First and foremost.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
And those, you talked about that, those moments of guilt or the should have, could have, would have, that you said are dark spaces, to kind your mind for ourselves too, for what we're capable of and what we're
not jumping to that, reactive and the impulsive and the rage and the, it's easy to get caught, and it's from little things like driving or interacting with a sibling or a child or dealing with work or whatever, like just the moment to moment stuff. Because we really think that like having that and practicing that will then prevent these like big violent outbursts, and like that's what it's all about, is like
just little
preventing
things every
that.
day.
Like we don't need to get to that point. We just don't, like, so just remembering that we are love and that like violence isn't necessarily our natural tendency, even though we've been kind of conditioned to believe that. I think like we want to just remind people that we are kindness, we are love, we can have that first, and we can still be on guard, and we can still have boundaries, and we can still fight for what we believe in, but through love. So
yes. Yeah. Thank you so much. For those here, a request, everyone, I never ask this to like or give a thumbs up to this video. It helps so much for others to see this. It helps others to hear your story. And I want you to know, Chelsea and Julie, that other people on the chat are sharing their stories of domestic abuse, showing that this happens so.
It does.
No one is immune to this. And
probably everyone knows somebody or has been in a situation before that could be considered domestic violence in some way, or abuse, or it's just there. It's everywhere. It is. It's everywhere. And I wish people could be more aware of it and help each other.
Thank you. Again, the two of you to talk so compassionately about an absolute tragedy, it's touched my heart, and I'm still processing that a little bit. That I think you're both incredible. I think you're amazing. And I want to say this. When I asked Julie to be on, she said, yeah, she said Kym would want, you know, to do this and to talk about this and show this same type of compassion. And so thank you.
You do it for her.
Yeah, for that. Please like this video. It helps other people to see it. Please subscribe to our channel. It means so much because we want to bring more of these types of interviews here. I want to thank all the people that donated tonight. I didn't want to interrupt the important conversation to thank everyone donating, but I saw them and it meant a lot to us. So thank you to those that donated. I did see them coming down. And then one more time, I want to thank one of those donators. It was so sweet. Is the owner of Pepper with Leopard, who we just met, and we've just welcomed into our community. And I want to thank her again for donating clothing that I wear that I feel beautiful in. She also gave me this. I just want to share this.
Nice.
That's on her shop, and her shop is you can use the code HTC, Hidden True Crime, HTC 15, Peppered with Leopard. And then I have a chronic cough. Excuse me. We're working on it, everyone. All of the links that you've mentioned are in the chat, including you can find Kind Your Mind and the Kym Fest on Facebook and on Instagram and many places. And again, we have the links in the description too. So thank you everyone for supporting your efforts in helping and in Kym's memory. And I'm going to remember that, to kind your mind to everyone around me and also myself. So thank you, ladies. Is there anything else you want to say?
Just thank you all for listening to us, and I hope everybody's safe and okay.
Words of encouragement and
thanks for having us, Lauren.
We appreciate it.
Welcome. And let us know when things are up and running, when there's merchandise, whatever. We are here. The Hidden True Crime team is here. Community is here for both of you. So let us know.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye.